Let me set this up this way because me and you are two of the more optimistic people about the Cleveland Browns going into this season. We both see them clearing that threshold of the over-under. I think that's at like 5.5 or 6.5 wins. And we are basing that on a lot of different things that took place this offseason. So my question to you is, if we won 5 games last year, how many more wins, if you do the difference, how many wins is Todd Monken worth in his first year as head coach, in your opinion?
Nobody expected it to come down to this. Not the coaches, not the front office, not even the kid who's been doubted his entire life. But here we are, Cleveland's quarterback room still wide open, and the whole country is watching to see if Shedeur Sanders finally gets his shot. It's the kind of story that sounds like a movie script, a quarterback with a famous last name, a Heisman-level resume, and a draft slide that shocked the entire league. Then a new coaching staff walks in, wipes the slate clean, and suddenly this competition isn't about hype anymore, it's about survival. Todd Monken didn't come to Cleveland to babysit anybody's ego. He came to fix an offense that finished dead last in the league. And when a new play caller with that kind of reputation shows up, every quarterback on the roster knows exactly what that means. Nobody's job is safe, no matter what happened before this year. So picture this, a rookie-minded quarterback still writing his own story, walking into meetings knowing that one bad rep on tape could end the conversation before it even starts. That's the pressure Shedeur's been living under since the day he signed. Not prove you're good, prove you belong. Prove the doubters wrong. Prove that a 5th-round slide wasn't a scouting report. It was a mistake by 31 other teams.
I feel like personally, I think he can get you 2 to 3. I see this team winning 7 to 8 games. I know a lot of people say that's crazy talk, but to me, you win the offseason by what you did with the roster, some of the moves that you made. Everybody tells you had the best draft. A lot of people respect Todd Monken's play calling. I know the Myles Garrett thing kind of puts a wrinkle on things, but you get another player back in return. And I just think that the whole message
And the noise hasn't stopped. Analysts on national television questioning his arm strength, former players picking apart his footwork frame by frame, fans on social media split right down the middle, half of them ready to crown him the future of the franchise, the other half convinced he's just another name attached to too much hype and not enough production. That's the tension surrounding every single practice rep this summer. Nothing about this feels settled. But here's the part people forget when they're busy arguing online. Competition like this isn't new to him. This is a kid who grew up under a magnifying glass his whole life. Cameras in his living room before he even had a driver's license. Every mistake magnified, every highlight picked apart for hidden flaws. So when people ask if the pressure in Cleveland is going to break him, anyone who's actually watched his story unfold knows pressure is the only environment he's ever known. That's where the mindset conversation becomes so important, because on paper, this looks like an underdog story, a guy fighting for a starting job in a city that's been starving for stability at quarterback for over 2 decades. But talk to people close to the building, and they'll tell you something different. They'll tell you he doesn't talk like a guy trying to survive a competition. He talks like a guy trying to lead a locker room.
Maybe not the front office, but from a coaching and a player standpoint, is to win. We want to win. We want to change the culture. We want a winning culture here, right? Now, you hear that all the time, but I don't know. The players say that things is different. You hear them talk, and they seem like they're enjoying what they're doing again, right? And I think that counts for something. And then I think that if you parlay that with, quote unquote, the easiest schedule in the NFL, because I put it in quotes because obviously
there's a difference between wanting the job and being built for the job. And that's the separation Cleveland's coaching staff is watching for right now, every single day on the practice field. Now let's talk about what's actually shown up on tape, because this is where the story stops being about narrative and starts being about football. The reps where he's extended plays outside structure and still delivered strikes downfield. The reps where his eyes stayed calm in the pocket, even when the protection broke down around him. Little moments, sure, preseason moments, but the kind of moments that make evaluators lean forward instead of lean back. And then there's the flip side, the overthrown targets, the hesitation reading certain coverages, the plays where his inexperience against NFL disguises has been exposed. This is what makes this competition must-watch content instead of a formality, because it's close, genuinely close, not a manufactured storyline, an actual battle. Here's something worth sitting with for a second. Former Browns safety Tyvis Powell, a guy who's played in this exact building, who's felt the weight of Cleveland football pressure firsthand, went public with his take on where this competition is headed. And instead of dismissing Shedeur the way so many national voices have, Powell laid out exactly why he believes this kid fits the franchise's long-term vision. Not because of the name, not because of the hype, because of how he processes pressure in real time on real reps against real NFL speed.
Year to year, teams figure things out all the time. So you can't really put a lot of stock in it's going to be the easiest because who knows, the team's going to come out of nowhere. So if you parlay all of that together, to me, that should be able to get you more wins. The reason that they let Kevin go is because they felt like this team was better. Even with the roster that they had last year, that team was better than a 5-win team. If that's the case, you can't bring a coach in here and not get that number, right? So I think that is the goal. I think they're going to find a way to get it done.
That's a different kind of endorsement. That's someone who's lived it, saying the quiet part out loud. And if you're new to this channel and you're locked in on how this quarterback competition plays out over the next few weeks, hit that subscribe button right now, because we're breaking down every practice rep, every reaction, and every twist in this story before anybody else does. So where does the locker room stand on all of this? Because that matters just as much as the tape. Teammates have talked about his approach behind closed doors, the way he stays after sessions to get extra throws in, the way he studies not just his own reads, but the whole offense, receivers included. That's not something you fake for cameras. That's the kind of habit that either gets buried in a bad system or turns into something special in the right one. And that's exactly why this Todd Monken hire matters so much to this whole conversation. A play caller who's coached elite quarterback play before. Someone who's not interested in favorites or storylines, just production. If Shedeur wins this job, it won't be because the fan base wanted a good story. It'll be because he earned it in front of a coach who has zero incentive to hand it to him.
Yeah, no, I want to stay on the Browns here, Tyvis, because obviously this quarterback competition is still ongoing. Would you have rather this thing been solved already, or are you okay with the competition still running its course?
I mean, ideally, you would love to have it been solved by now. I mean, but that would mean that one guy's just completely blowing the other guy away. Like, it's not even close, and they would have been able to make that decision. But the fact that it's still going on, to me, I feel like it shows that it's two guys that's putting their best.
That's the turning point everybody's circling right now. Not one single highlight, not one single interview. It's the accumulation of small moments that are starting to shift the tone around this competition. What started as, can he even hang, is slowly becoming, why wouldn't he be the guy? You can feel it in the way coaches are talking to reporters. Careful, measured, but not dismissive anymore. You can feel it in how teammates talk about him in the locker room, less like a name, more like a guy they trust when it matters. And you can feel it in how the fan base, cautiously, is starting to lean back in instead of bracing for disappointment. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. None of this guarantees anything. Preseason flashes don't always translate. Confidence doesn't always survive first contact with a real NFL defense in Week 1. This city has been burned before, more times than anyone wants to count. So the skepticism isn't irrational, it's earned, the hard way, over 20 years of quarterback disappointment. But that's exactly what makes this different. This isn't blind optimism. This is a fan base watching closely, demanding proof, refusing to get fooled again, and still, somehow, allowing themselves a small flicker of belief. And maybe that's the story here. Not a guaranteed franchise savior, not a guaranteed bust, just a young quarterback who spent his entire life being underestimated, standing in front of one more test in one more city, desperate for someone to finally believe in. Cleveland has waited a long time for a quarterback story that feels different, not louder, not flashier, just real. And whether Shedeur Sanders is the answer or just another chapter in a painful history, one thing is certain. Nobody's looking away from this competition. Not now. Not with this much on the line. Because sometimes the most powerful stories in sports aren't about guaranteed greatness. They're about somebody finally getting the chance to prove what they always believed about themselves, and the whole world finally being forced to watch.